out. If we can somehow take these long-term dynamics, things like climate change, and bring them into a 5 or 10 minute experience and play with it as a toy, I think we can kind of recalibrate our instincts around this. Use this almost as a tool to calibrate our imagination to think, long term. So I basically trashed my home planet here. I'm going to pull back. Now, as I pull back from my home planet, I start saying this is my solar system. So this is my home star. We have a few other planets here. We might apply to another planet in our home system here. Now, this planet, I can tell, has some simple life on it, not intelligence, but just some kind of very primitive life. Now, one of the things I want players to do with this, we're playing through evolution. We're trying to present this kind of a toy version of evolution, a very simple version, but it still captures most of the dynamics of evolution. It's about the food web, the types of species, carnivores, omnivores, herbivores. As we move into the future, I want the game to be more and more focused on the kind of fictional landmarks that we have. As we think about science fiction, it actually covers a lot of interesting territory, a lot of interesting philosophical questions. So a lot of the gameplay, kind of up at these levels, is based upon kind of my favorite science fiction movies. So here's a species on the planet. It's just some kind of wild creature. One of the things I can kind of do at this level is I can take out my monolith tool. The ocean. They were aquatic. Well, I'm going to try that again. I have to choose. I want to get one monolith in this game. Monolith is something that you come across much later in the game. No one. And so basically, I'm looking at kind of my favorite science fiction movies and figuring out what the landmarks, kind of the narrative landmarks in there are. Oh, actually, they did find a monolith. Okay. Well, what they do is they come worship around the monolith, and then it basically instantly updates their brain level. And so now they've actually built a tribal society here, so this is their hut. And at some point, I can come down, I can actually leave my UFO and get them to try to worship me as a god. I have to be very careful not to upset them. But once I let them get used to me, it's just kind of like painting a wild horse. So once again, this is a creature that I made when I was playing through the game. These are creatures that some other players made. They might have certain properties. I don't think he wants to worship me right now. Pretty small tribe here. Yeah. Oh. Some little tricks like that. I can actually scan them. I can also scan this guy with my scanning tool. And what basically happens is he gets entered in my encyclopedia. We have this idea of a Scorepedia, which is this encyclopedia of everything you come across in a game up to this point. And in some sense, this is your way to visualize the food web on a planet. So as you click on these things, these are not scanned, this is the guy I just scanned. I can actually get a running database of every creature, every vehicle, every building, every city, every planet, every star that I visited in the game. This is built up organically. And we wanted to actually build a printable trading card game and kind of play with this. So you can kind of actually bring this outside the game. So in addition to things like 2001, we also take all these other landmarks, things like War of the Worlds, Stay the Earth Stood Still, Star Trek, X-Files. Each one of these becomes kind of an aspect of the metagame at this level. Now, as we advance our technology, at some point we can actually pull away from our home star out into the interstellar space around our star. So this is the region of interstellar space around our home star. Several hundred other stars here. We not only have stars, but we have a lot of Hubble objects that you might see. In fact, the Hubble images you were saying earlier, one of the things about those that always interested me was that when you look at those images, you have no idea of the scale or frequency of these things. You have no idea whether you're looking at a planetary nebula or a galaxy. And there's a tremendous difference in size between the two. This is like a protoplanetary disk. This is a region where new planets are forming around the star. Over time, so coalesce and form planetary systems. But I wanted to have basically a very simple environment where the player can kind of go around almost as a tourist, kind of visiting this little zoo of cool objects, and get some sense of how these things behave and where they're distributed, how large they are relative to each other, and to give people a context for things that they're seeing. For instance, like in the Hubble. So here we're going to a planetary nebula, which is really just an exploded star. But there are these lovely things that are kind of like the birds of the universe. Each one is different. There's these magnificently colored things that are basically remnants of supernovas. But of course, we can also go to stars. This is a binary system over here. And every star system will have planets you can interact with. And many of these will be inhabited by other players' species. And many of them will be spacefaring, will have things like missions and all that. But basically, over time, you're able to explore larger and larger areas. If we pull back from this, we're seeing several thousand stars. They're, many are procedurally generated, many are player kind of built. But really, this is a very small fraction of the entire galaxy that we're dealing with here. We're actually dealing with several million worlds that are all unique because they're built by the players kind of as they play the game in parallel. So basically, that is Spore. I'm going to show you just a little more PowerPoint, and we'll finish up here. Not too late. You can take any form of human technology and kind of understand it as an extension of the human body. So in some sense, cars are an extension of our legs. Things like telescopes, television extend our eyesight. Telephones extend our voice. A house, really, clothing extends our skin on our body. Now, computers really do a lot of these things, but really, I think the most important thing that computers do for us, and they're going to be doing in the future, is they extend our imagination. And that's actually a very powerful thing to think about. It's like having this kind of enhancement, an amplifier for our imaginations. And we're already using computers in things like entertainment, education, communication, and they're very rapidly, especially through computer games, becoming tools of self-expression, and with websites and social spaces, things like that. So how is this really going to kind of impact the world going forward? And this is kind of, in my mind, one of these questions that I kind of think about late at night as I'm falling asleep and thing. Every now and then the entire world goes through like a major paradigm shift where all the rules just change from underneath us, and we have to kind of recalibrate, rebuild basically our model of the world. Sometimes these things are kind of driven by social changes that occur. These used to happen about once every lifetime, maybe twice a lifetime. But with technology, a lot of these are driven by technology. We're starting to see it happen more and more often. Some of them are actually grassroots rather than top-down. Some of them take us totally by surprise. We don't see them coming at all until they happen. But basically, the rate at which these major paradigm shifts are hitting us are happening more and more frequently over time. And we have a lot more kind of heading our way. We have a lot of obvious political kind of issues that we're confronting, more social issues on the way, obvious environmental issues that are starting to get much more kind of awareness. And we have a lot of people kind of issuing warnings, some very specific, some a little more abstract, as kind of landmarks within that space, as I mentioned earlier, that we can choose to avoid or kind of move towards. But basically, when we look at games specifically and entertainment in general, kind of heading into that future, I think games have this perception in popular culture right now of being these simple, meaningless, mindless toys. We waste our time with. But really, I think it can be much, much more than that. There are changes in our behavior and the way we see the world. They're able to allow us to develop systemic thinking about these very complex systems that we confront. And in some sense, allow us to build much more elaborate, more accurate models of the world around us. And because of that, we're potentially able to navigate the future with just a little bit more intelligence than we were able to before. And so hopefully these things, will allow us to change the world, by changing the people and their awareness and their models just a little bit for the better over the next, rest of our lives, basically. And that's the end. Thank you.